town against the #1 team in the land, the Texas Longhorns. Texas victorious last night. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tyler Denning, Salima Rockwell. That victory for Texas, straight sets, big reason their offensive distribution.
Well, and it's balance that you're always looking for with your teams, and that's what they were able to do last night in such a fine fashion.
The outside hitters with 22, middle blockers with 14, opposites with 8. They were led by Logan Eggleston, as they have been in every match this season. As we look at the impact player, Salima, you see it happening in the middle of the floor.
It really was the battle of the middles last night with Iowa State. It's Candelaria Herrera who caught steam last night and just gave Texas fits with her speed. Tonight for Texas is Breon Butler, who can absolutely dominate in the middle, and I'm expecting to see that again tonight.
So we're all ready to go. Texas perfect on the year, 5-0. Iowa State 2-3. Night number 2, name of the game, adjustments. Teams have switched sides from the way that they were going last night. One of the precautions with COVID. No switching sides in between sets. Texas in their burnt orange uniforms. Iowa State in the white this evening.
Texas.
Iowa State head coach Christy Johnson Lynch, 16 years as the head coach, 13 NCAA appearances in the last 15 seasons, including last year in which they lose in the first round to number 15 seed Creighton. 2009 Big 12 Coach of the Year. Seen a lot of action early in the middle, as we talked about Breon Butler. For Texas head coach Jarrett Elliott, 20th season, 484 career wins, 9 national semifinals in the last 12 years for head coach Jarrett Elliott. Alana Yosia serving for the Texas Longhorns.
Doing a nice job. She's staying back there, staying down with this floater serve. She started out with the jumper last night. Now keeping it just a little bit safer, but doing a nice job.
We saw 2 quick service errors from Yosia last night, but Texas off to a great start here in Austin, up 4-0. The airplane in the air. So a quick 4-0 run to start the match leads to an Iowa State timeout. It's Texas winners of 10 consecutive sets. You have to go back 2 weeks to their matches against Oklahoma for the last time they dropped a set. Straight sets last night, straight sets last week over number 9 Kansas. But these two teams, quick turnaround, Salima, in this back-to-back Big 12 Conference only schedule. So adjustments, recovery. What are you seeing early on?
Well, right now it's the tough serving by Texas that's catching them a little bit off guard, and Iowa State doing a nice job just kind of keeping under control. Hatch with a big kill, but that's where they have to steady out with their passing right now. I'm sure it's a lot more targeted this evening now that they have more numbers from last night.
We talked offensive balance in the open. Sophomore Molly Phillips, a big reason for that last night. Having a very good match, bounced back from last week in her struggles. Annie Hatch will serve for the Cyclones. Sophomore from Mesa, Arizona, came into this weekend leading the conference in aces with 7. But that quickly in system, just like Texas draws it up.
Man, and that's as fast as an outside ball that I've seen from Texas. You see how quickly Eggleston gets on that ball. A beautiful set by Gabriel to get that one-on-one block.
Was it a dime to start the whole sequence?
It was a dime. It was a dime.
Dime counter, we start 1. Sydney Peterson serving for Texas, junior from Iowa. There's that middle that we talked about, the impact player, Candelaria Herrera, the senior from San Juan, Argentina.
And you see how quickly she gets off the ground, and Eggleston just a little bit late with her hands. If she's up a hair earlier, she might catch her on that block.
2019 Big 12 All-First Team was Herrera, preseason All-Big 12. Mentioned playing with the Argentinian national team, helping them qualify for a spot in Tokyo. Should have been this fall, will be next summer. That trickles off the Texas block once again. Jenna Gabriel and Asia O'Neal were out there. It was Brooke Anderson, the junior outside from Waukesha, Wisconsin. It's a good response from the Cyclones coming off that 4-0 start for Texas. Herrera serving again. When you talk Texas tough serving, now we've seen some tough serving on the Cyclone side.
When I tell you, Herrera's fired up. She knows exactly what she's doing. We talk about that international experience, and that comes with the serve as well. Hits that ball nice and flat and drops right in front of her.
So an Iowa State team came in first in the Big 12 in aces per set, 1.56. They are a tough serving team. Texas will get a look here. Gabriel back sets for O'Neal, tapping down the line.
And that was a nice save by O'Neal. Ball that's a little bit flat. She wasn't able to really get on top of it. She does a nice job with her hands, just pushes it through to hit the floor.
Asia O'Neal, redshirt sophomore from South Lake, Texas. One of those 5 players. She had 5 kills herself on 11 swings, no errors. Texas really efficient last night, hit 378 as a squad. And talk Texas serving, so far so good at the line.
They're doing a very nice job as opposed to last night. Just remember, they had error after error came back, and this is a nice serve targeting Holthaus here, who's in the passing pattern. We'll talk about that a little bit later, about Holthaus being a passer as an opposite, which is a little unusual.
Texas had 11 service errors in the match last night, so definitely something I figure they would want to clean up. Out to Skylar Fields, who trickles it off the block.
And this starts with the dig. You know, we talked about this a lot last night, and how your defensive players are not just playing the ball, but they're putting it right on the money.
It's a graduate transfer, Morgan O'Brien from Libertyville, Illinois, started her career at the University of Illinois as Eggleston puts that just into the tape. But we've talked a lot about O'Brien, what she brings, donning that black Libro jersey for Texas in this her inaugural season on the 40 acres. Jenna Brandt serving. Texas with the block, second of the match thus far.
And then they have the opportunity to get there and close this block, and to see O'Neal hip to hip with Gabriel and stuffs this ball.
6'3", Asia O'Neal. Coaching staff really pleased with her development, volleyball IQ, and where that's trending. Back row attack for Eggleston. Anna, the Libro for Iowa State, just send it back over and out of bounds.
And what I love about that whole play was the dig from Eggleston and then ready to attack out of the back row. She digs this ball and she's already starting her approach. And that is a huge weapon for Texas.
Junior Logan Eggleston, 2-time All-American in her 2 seasons played already, as Peterson gets under that one just enough to keep the play alive. Texas ends it with the block, the defense for the Longhorns, part of this 6-1 run.
We're going to continue to talk about this defense and how Peterson, deep in the court, just lays out there and gets that pancake. An amazing effort also by Butler to save that ball and keep it alive.
We've talked a lot about Sydney Peterson, the junior now, and her experience at the Libro position, but what it's done for Texas's back line, their defense, that was the open for our show last night, but look no further than that sequence.
Well, and that's it. Everyone's play has elevated, you know, and that's what happens when you have great players come in. They push each other. They make each other better. So if you can see the competition that way, it elevates the game and it elevates all of the players.
Peterson will sit down. Molly Phillips back in for Texas. Trying to go into the middle, did Iowa State. They'll try the left side now. Out of bounds, long into the deep right corner.
And Iowa State was working a little bit on that middle play from off the net, even in warm-ups, kind of wanting to find that. They know that's where they had a lot of success last night. They want to continue to feed that as much as they can.
Junior setter, Jenna Gabriel. Cogging the engine that makes it all go for this Texas offense. They'll try the left, Enna right there to bring it up. Avery Rhodes the kill for the Cyclones. Redshirt junior from Waco, Texas. So get the side out and get to serve. The senior Enna from Kansas City, Missouri. Third in the Big 12, came in this weekend and digs per set. Joust there won by the Cyclones.
Definitely a little miscue on the Texas side. Not sure if Butler was a little earlier, not sure where she was going with the ball, but they have to straighten that out. And this is the rotation where they have a little trouble here, passing in that, we call that the 5-6 seam, right where you see Fields and Eggleston. They want to work that seam as much as possible.
So back right corner for Texas, watching at home, but that's the result. Texas wanted to stop that mini rally from Iowa State.
And you might see them in that rotation move their passing pattern a little bit. We'll look for that later in the match and see if they have to move that around.
You'll see it a serve. Freshman from Torrance, California. Back row swing for the Cyclones. Their side thought it was caught off tips. They are convinced of it. Look over to Coach Johnson Lynch. I think we will see our first challenge of the match. What'd you see?
I thought I saw it live. I thought I saw it. Did you see it on the replay?
Looks like Butler, that left, maybe ring finger. Pulls back. Ball did end up long and out of bounds, but point did go the way of Texas, so that's what Iowa State is challenging. But it looks pretty clear, at least from that initial angle. That one a little harder because the ball blocking the finger.
Right. Yeah, I thought from behind you could see it, but of course the down ref wanting to get it right, looking at it over and over again.
NCAA challenge system coaches 3 challenges per match, an additional challenge if we go to a 5th. What is reviewable? Ball in and out, contacting a player, which is what they are looking at right now. Net fault, service fault, 3-meter attack line foot fault, and then a illegal attack block or contact of ball. Salima, one of the things we have talked about now that they can look at throughout that review is the whole sequence and see if there is anything out. Obviously, within this one, it's very clear as to where it would or would not be, and we think this one's going to be overturned.
And that's where they bundled kind of that whole in-out, up-down, touch combination. So instead of individual calls, when you're making a challenge, now if any of those happened, no matter what they're challenging, then the ref is going to make the right call.
And something that you would think has to favor coaches now, that, hey, you can say, look at that whole sequence, and if it's a pivotal sequence, maybe we'll get something.
Right.
So one more time, the back row swing from Iowa State goes long and out of bounds. It was called on the floor, no touch. What they are looking at, did Breon Butler with that left hand contact the ball enough to overturn the call on the floor? You be the official, what's your ruling?
I mean, I thought I saw it. Again, it's what she's looking at, what she's seeing. Is she able to see what we're seeing? And we'll see.
So inconclusive from one of the looks. It did look like that left finger maybe, but obviously on the floor, what was determined by the officials. Call confirmed, so the challenge lost by Iowa State. They'll have 2 remaining. Texas remaining on serve. You'll see it to do such.
As good as a timeout.
You talked about it last night, those timeouts, how they can break the rhythm of a server. But it does ice Josiah for a moment. Is Eleanor Holthouse Serve for the Cyclones. Gabriel back for Phillips. Big over from Enna. Try the other side. Down the line and up from Holdhouse. Free ball coming for Texas. Gabriel into the middle. Breon Butler, your impact player.
Point Texas.
Man, what a rally.
Longest we've seen thus far.
I just love what Iowa State's doing on defense right now. They're just scrapping all over the court here. Enna made 3 or 4 huge digs in a row to keep them in it. And then a missed opportunity by Iowa State, and they set the ball over.
Saw Texas. We had talked distribution, but just within that play right there, you see the options that Jenna Gabriel has. She adjusted the defense as she goes to Phillips there, cuts across court.
Well, and that's the thing, that if you can continue to move that ball around, you set the left, then you set the middle. It's really hard on the middle blockers to make a read, to know where it's going. But again, with quality touches and digs, you're able to do that.
So Texas in control. So things on the Texas side of the net. Distribution, we talked it in the open, 5 players with 1 or more kills. They have actually 4 that have 2 each, but Salima, .391 hitting percentage for Texas. You like the defense for the Cyclones. They have 7 kills, but 5 attack errors.
Well, and they're able to dig the ball, but they're not able to execute, right? That's the key. And that's what they want to do. They want to go to Herrera here whenever they can, so they can score. But digging balls, you can dig all the balls you want, but if you don't finish the play, you're not going to score the point.
Herrera part of that Pan American Games bronze medal team for Argentina. O'Neal out of the middle, but long. And that was one of the questions we had talked about heading into this back-to-back match. We know that their attack, Iowa State's that is, Eleanor Holthouse is the leader. And questions about, for her, the recovery within this back-to-back format.
And it's tough, that's what we talked about with every coach. It's hard playing back-to-back, and what are they going to do in practice the next day? It looks like she's staying in right now, playing 6 rotations. Again, it's a little bit unusual to see an opposite that's in the passing pattern all the time and staying in the back row.
So it's number 6 in white, the junior right side. All Big 12 first teamer who will range under this. That's not usually where she is within the sequence for the Cyclones setting the ball. She's usually the one receiving the set.
Right, but she steps in. You can see she's such a good all-around player, and I think that's what they love about her. She can score, she can terminate, but she's got a high volleyball IQ. She can pass. Obviously, she can set the ball out of system, and that's why she stays in as much as possible.
Leads the team with 3.28 kills per set, hitting percentage as well at .383 coming into this weekend. Good all-around player, 2.56 digs per set. Push from O'Neal. Gabriel to the other side, Eggleston with the kill.
Peterson just snuck in there. She kind of cleared everybody out, kind of scrapped in there and played this ball. Again, another fast ball to the pin.
And Salima, you've opened my eyes to it, but for Texas, the options that they have with O'Brien and Peterson there, it feels like it trickles down to the pins and to the offensive attack having those 2 in the back.
It really does. I mean, because they're able to control the ball. They can control where they want it to go, and that's the key. It's one thing to dig the ball, but it's another thing to dig quality ball that allow the setter to set wherever she wants.
Jenna Brandt, the setter for the Cyclones, keep that in. Gabriel will try. Skylar Fields onto her real estate.
Nice high swing over top of the block down the line. And I think, Fields has such good vision as well. They set this ball high out of system to allow her to go over the top. She just hits it flat off the block down the line.
It's 2 players at 6'1" in Holthouse and Herrera that she went over. Texas leading by 5. There's a swing from Eleanor Holthouse from Richmond, Minnesota. 3 double-doubles last year. Already invested that in this young season, named to the preseason All Big 12 team. The Cyclones have a run. Texas now, though, 4 points away. They're going the way of Fields, and it's working.
I like it. You know, she's got an array of shots right now, and that's where her IQ, you could see, just increased over the season last year, and now she's just mixing up her shots so she can score.
Just a sophomore from Missouri City, Texas, Skylar Fields. Jenna Gabriel serves.
Ohio State.
Third service error for Texas in the first set.
Server number 7, Izzy Enna.
It's a deep breath from Gabriel. Fields sent back by the Iowa State block.
And this is that rotation we talked about earlier. This is rotation 1, where they're looking to work that seam with Eggleston and Fields to see if they come back to that or if they change the passing pattern when they come out of the timeout.
So what does that do to Texas? You're talking on their side. Where do they have to adjust, or what are the reactions from Texas that puts pressure on them offensively?
Well, right now it's figuring out, okay, can we move somebody passing-wise? If these two are having trouble next to each other, if we want to move maybe Skylar out of it to give Libera a little more room, they might split the hitters, and they can move her all the way to the right side of the court, and then all of a sudden your passing pattern changes. And so a lot of times people think, oh, they change things up for attacking, and really a lot of times it's just lining up the passers in the right spot to have your best passer either in the middle of the court or in the right spot.
And what you were talking about, this is pre-play, pre-serve, the alignment of the players and how they, within the rules, have to be structured.
Right, because there's overlaps, of course, you know, with next to one another and in front and in back of one another as well. So they have to be mindful of the overlaps, but you can still move people around and put them in different positions to maximize your strengths or your passing here in this scenario.
I feel that we're going to have to do a little Salima spotlight about this at some point.
We might need to look at some passing patterns and overlaps, because a lot of people don't even know. They don't know what that looks like and who needs to be where, but there's a lot to it. And some teams are really good at moving players around that way.
So Texas here at home, their new home, temporary home, the Frank Irwin Center. Traditionally, men's and women's basketball played out of such, but Texas has always been so good in their home city of Austin. Brought the banners over from Gregory to make it feel a little more comfortable, but Texas so far so good on this season. 5-0, looking to make it 6-0, all within Big 12 play. Playing for a spot are these teams, the automatic qualifier. Whoever wins the conference will qualify for the NCAA tournament that has been announced, will take place in April of next year. Out of the Texas timeout. Fields long on that swing.
Just missed. Looks like they're kind of staying where they are. They're going to squeeze Fields a little bit more to the sideline.
There's two Fields. Gabriel will try Butler in the middle. Easy work for Brandt. And the cut shot from Holthouse on the right side is a 4-0 scoring rally now from the Cyclones. Has it just a 1-point deficit.
That's a nice cut by Holthouse. She sees the block, chops it. Now you see the passing pattern change. Fields is over on the right side of the court, freeing up Eggleston a little bit more and allowing them to side out.
So how does that change everything? You talk about the passes, it goes to the set, and then what the options are offensively, right?
Well, then you'll see now Fields is on the right side of the court, so they can set her on the right. They may not want to set Phillips on the left. That might not be their primary set, right? That's why they don't move it so much, because she's more of a middle and a right side. But if they have a good pass, then they can set Butler, and they can set Fields on the right and side out.
The game within the game. Set there for Butler and get the side out that they needed. Largest lead for Texas was 6, but Iowa State is not going away.
Holdhouse having a nice match so far. And that's her all-around game. You know, she's digging balls and she's getting kills and being super smart right now.
Gives a short serve for Texas as O'Brien trying to dive in, but that will tie it up at 22 apiece with the ace.
And again, this is a serve that you can't just pull out all the time. You know, it's hard. It's hard to serve short consistently at the end of a match. I like what she's doing.
A 6-1 scoring run after the third ace for the Cyclones. Gabriel into the middle. That reaction, it was a big swing from Breon Butler, but catching Holdhouse up high.
Oh, man. I'm going to take some time, see if she's okay.
Saw that last night with Jaden Centeno. We were told she was okay, checked out, good to go.
She was actually subbing in for Holdhouse. Same position, same area of the court.
You see Holdhouse shrugs it off, ready to go. Texas back with the block. Phillips and Asia O'Neal. The 2 big points for Texas. That's a set point.
This is a ball that's a little tight to the net, but Phillips surrounds it and gives her no room to breathe on the outside. They're going to want to get the ball to Herrera here.
O'Brien serving. Texas, Gabriel go to Eggleston. Into the middle for O'Neal. Cyclones scrambling but get it back. Eggleston will have another look off the Cyclones block. Try the other side with Phillips and she'll end the set. Molly Phillips, her 3rd kill. As that got tight, saw a 6-1 run from the Cyclones, but Texas with 2 big points and close it out with the Phillips kill. They've now all this season. What you got cooked up for us tonight?
Well, we're going to talk about vision and anticipation. So we're looking at the libero here, Morgan O'Brien. So you watch her head and her face as she watches the setter and then picks up the hitter, and that's how she's able to play balls so efficiently. And that's what you need from your libero. So watch here. She keeps her body facing and focused on the setter. You can see her watching the setter, and she makes this turn as the ball goes outside and plays the ball just inside of O'Neal's block. And that's what you need as a libero. You want to see the whole court, watch the play as it develops, and that's the vision and the anticipation that makes you good.
So when we were talking about this earlier and watched it, in my mind, it likened to maybe a safety in football, watching the quarterback's eyes. But what I wanted to ask you was, how much of that comes from scout when you're watching film, watching tape, so the work that you're doing prior to what we see on the floor?
Well, for sure, a lot of it does. But the great ones, they just kind of have it. They see it, right? They can see the court. They can see what's developing. And that's why their touch is so good. That's why they're anticipating the ball and they're able to react to it quicker than the rest of us and create a quality touch. And that's the difference. Someone might be able to get to it because they were watching film, but that natural, innate ability to see and react is what makes them great.
What makes the libero a special player and so fun to watch as we see thus far. Texas, great opening set. Attacking wise, 15 kills, just 3 errors. Butler, 4 kills in the middle. Morgan O'Brien with 4 digs. Iowa State hit 212, so 13 kills to their 6 errors, but had a nice run. See if they can build on that.
Herrera again, getting off the floor quick, beating the block.
Eggleston thought that ball was down. They were still playing on both sides, but the whistle blows. That was registered as kill for Eggleston.
Yeah, I think she got part of the ball, but you have to get the whole thing. You have to get your hand completely underneath the ball. She's not arguing, so she knows part of it was on the ground.
Anna's dig over and out of bounds.
Point Texas.
In the right spot, but sometimes it's a lot of heat to handle.
Yeah, so going back to your spotlight, we talked about everything prior to the ball actually coming, but then what you have to do as a libero, you have to directionalize that ball properly as well.
You got to control it. You got to be able to control your platform, absorb the ball because there's so much heat coming off of it, and not just whack at it. And that's the thing, like you have to control that touch.
Talk about controlling, something we've seen Texas do all season long. Control the net defensively. Their third block there makes it a 3-1 lead. Gabriel for Eggleston. What a crafty shot. We've seen her go with power. We've seen her go with touch. That's like a combination of both.
I love that. That's just a little crossbody shot here where she just cuts it down the line without looking. It's nice, isn't it?
That's some creativity right there. Knew that she had that space, and it was well within bounds as well. All the way cross court for the Cyclones. It was Brooke Anderson on the swing, but long, a little too much power. Will lead to a Cyclones timeout. Much Molly Phillips for Texas, the sophomore from Mansfield. Off to a great weekend start. 11 kills, no errors, 15 swings. And when we talked with Texas head coach Jarrett Elliott earlier this week, it talked about Phillips. She struggled on that second night against Kansas last week, but said emotionally she stayed in it. Been committed. We see the results on the court these two nights.
Well, and I think that's the key is staying in it mentally and emotionally. You're always going to come back. You know, she's a fantastic player and she's going to be able to score. But if she gets out of it mentally, that's when she's in trouble.
And any coach loves to see that level of efficiency, right? No errors.
When it looks like her connection with Gabriel is a little bit better, they're running that ball just a little bit faster. She's getting on it super quick, hitting with a lot more pace as well.
They've also asked more of her to transition positions, going from the middle to working on a different side. How difficult is that adjustment?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Middles, usually that's their best transition. The most comfortable transition is on the right because it's not a long set. It's a little bit quicker set, but it's still a transition. You know, you still have to figure out that side of the court and your vision, seeing that ball come over your shoulder, but she's doing a really nice job.
Typically see middles a lot work on that slide over to the right as well, so maybe that helps with the transition.
It does. Just being over on that, used to being over on that side of the court, it definitely helps a lot.
Texas controlling this early action after Iowa State scored the first point of the second set. The Longhorns team coming off 23-4 season last year. They go 15-1 in Big 12 conference play. The one loss to Baylor, with whom they split the conferences. Gabriel and Asia O'Neal there. Another block for Texas.
Man. And you see O'Brien just in that right spot. And this is a quick set to the pin. For O'Neal to get there, close, and get over, all three of those things is very difficult for a middle to do.
Morgan O'Brien, graduate student. She's pursuing her master's in health behaviors and health education. Last May, she had graduated from Illinois, a Bachelor of Science in Community Health. Just 3 years she had completed such. Love to see that with these student athletes. Really motor their way. And you talk about a lot of these student athletes, they stay on campus during the summer, so they have an opportunity to take classes year-round and then transition quickly into the graduate program.
It's really nice. It's a wonderful opportunity afforded to so many student athletes, and they're fortunate to be able to do that. And, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Talked to her last night and heard some insight as to why she chose Texas. Said just wanted to come here for the program. But then Coach Elliott gained wind of it, reached out, and the rest is history. Looks to be a win-win for both parties here early on. Out to Eggleston, as we've seen more what we have all year from the juniors.
And they're running that ball. As that pass has moved forward and closer to where Eggleston is, they're running it faster and faster. So she's getting on there with just 2.5 steps, really, and getting on it fast.
She will serve.
Point, Iowa State.
Now the 5th service error for Texas.
Serving number 5, Brooke Anderson.
So discuss serving for Texas. Are you seeing a balance between aggression that you'd like as a coach, or is it a little too sloppy?
You know, I wouldn't say it's sloppy because they're being aggressive. They want to be aggressive with it. And you know, we talked a little bit last night. Eggleston's going to make some errors with her jump serve. You'll see it might. You know, it's the others that aren't really putting a ton of pace on it. They want to spot serve. You want to put it where you want it to go without making those errors. So it's a decent combination right now, but they need to clean it up when it's time to score points.
Is that something that analytically we've seen on so many benches now? You'll usually see a coach with a laptop. Is that something they track in terms of where they want the serve to go and where it actually ends up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So they're telling them where to serve for different reasons. Maybe it's a bad passer. Maybe they don't hit well from that passer, from that position on the court, and they have those numbers.
They got numbers for all this.
Everything. So if they miss a zone, when you miss a zone, that's a tough one because everything goes out the window. You're serving and you're playing your defense based on that serve and what they're going to do.
So just yet another intricacy within the strategy. The game within the game. That's why I like having you here.
There's a lot. There's a lot to it.
There's many reasons why I like being here next to you. Texas, a 4-point advantage. And a serving. And we've talked about it, the flip side for Texas when you're on serve receive, why it's so important. If you can shore up that passing, and that is where you feel Texas is really different this year from years past.
Yeah, I mean they're better. It's an upgrade. Everyone's better in the back row, and that makes a huge difference.
See if they can overcome some of the serving woes. Back set, beautiful execution, 1, 2, 3 for Iowa State to get the kill.
Monster swing by Whole House. And just like we're talking about with Texas, it starts with the pass. We'll see Butler's fronting that 31 on a good pass, maybe expecting them to run the middle, and they lay it back there, and she has a huge hole in the block to score.
It's a dime on the Cyclone side.
It's a dime.
Old House will sit down. Piper Motch will check in, number 11, the senior.
Point, Texas.
Kenzie Mance, that was on the swing, sophomore from Belle Plaine, Iowa, working the right side. These are a couple players we have yet to see this week, and part of this back-to-back format, your depth is going to be tested.
And Piper played last year. She was their setter, their starting setter. She's got the experience, and Coach Johnson thinks that she's ready to go whenever they call her number.
Talked about pressing over the block. Breon Butler stood for a moment and looked at that one, thought she was at least in position, but
didn't quite press that left hand over. Coach Elliott wants a double on the set.
So Mance gets the attack.
Got carded. But he was pretty upset about that set and kind of jumped off the bench as soon as it happened. And
did he have a case?
He had a case. He absolutely had a case.
Coming off of that warning issue to the Texas head coach.
Pass was just a little bit tight. That forced Gabriel to be tight, forced the set to be tight.
Seeing great fight from the Cyclones repeatedly. across these 2 matches thus far, but just unable to get a run that puts them in the lead and allowing them to build on it. That doesn't help. The service error will give the Longhorns the ball back. Cyclones team has made every NCAA tournament since 2006, except for 2018. Mentioned they went last year. They've been a staple. One of 14 programs to appear in 13 of the last 14. Went through those last night. It's really a who's who. It is one of the most consistent programs within the Big 12. You can always count on to be a tough out, especially if you have to travel to their place, and one that you can almost guarantee under Coach Johnson Lynch will be in the NCAA tournament.
Tough place to play, always tough playing their team because defensively they're always going to scrap. And that frustrates a lot of teams. If they're not physical enough to just overpower, it really, really can frustrate teams when they're just scrapping and playing D.
What's hard, Salima, for a team like Iowa State, you would think in this format that they have announced. 64 teams usually go to the NCAA tournament. It's been trimmed down. There's 32 automatic qualifiers from all the AQ conferences, but then just 16 at large. So for a team like Iowa State, if you're looking up at a Texas or Baylor and you're thinking, okay, well, that's who we have to beat to win the conference, well, now you're starting to gun for the 16 at large. And when you've trimmed that field in half, it becomes hard.
It becomes really hard. I mean, that's not a lot of teams at all. And you have no idea really what the landscape looks like, right? That's the thing. There's 4 conferences playing right now. And you have to really wait to the spring to see what else everybody else is going to do and how they're going to weigh everything and who's going to get those at-large bids. It's going to be really interesting to see how that flushes out as the season goes on.
You saw on the graphic there the 2021 portion of the season beginning in January. It's something we talked with Coach Elliott about, said that this week they finally were able to have their initial conversations, but there's so many unknowns. They don't know how they're going to be able to send the student athletes back home, when they're going to have to come back. You're talking about quarantine, everything with the COVID protocols to make sure that everybody is safe and healthy first and foremost. So a lot of moving parts. I think the most exciting thing for us, there's going to be a tournament.
I know. I'm excited. Let's look forward to that and hope everything progresses nicely as it is right now during the season. And I mean, they're planning on it. Everyone's looking forward to it. So I'm excited.
With everything all the moving parts, does it make you miss coaching?
I mean, I always miss coaching. I want to coach right now. Tell everybody, what are you doing?
Well, we love having you here. But just a big shout out to everybody across the country at the NCAA level, the conference levels, trying their best with everything going on and all these moving parts to play volleyball. We know that there are players out there in those conferences you talked about not getting the opportunity to play right now in the fall. Most important, it's playing safely and healthy. These teams test on Wednesday to make sure everybody's good. Coach Johnson Lynch saying, hey, we haven't had a test that was positive for 6 weeks. So we're still going through and making sure that we're safe, but we're able to be here. Eggleston off the tips. She thought no doubt about that one. What did you see?
You know, I have glasses now, so I'm not sure.
You don't have them on though
I didn't
right
see
now.
a touch at all. I mean, I thought it was way high up over the top of the block. I didn't see a touch.
And I believe Coach Johnson Lynch for Iowa State is agreeing with your assessment. We will see a challenge. So the second challenge that the Cyclones have used on the night. Call did go the way of Texas. We got the last one wrong, so I'm not speculating here.
And I'm going to put on my glasses, look at the monitor. Okay, so now that kind of looks like a touch, but it's hard to see it. It looks like the right hand.
That right hand, number 15 in white, Avery Rhodes. That same ring finger.
But man,
does it bend back? That's what I always look for. And we have great camera angles and the ability to slow it down.
I don't know. I mean,
Question
and
is,
we're right here. We're right on this side of the court. I should be able to see that. So my initial call was no way. But watching the replay,
And what's hard for Iowa State is that the initial ruling was a touch. And from that angle, it looks nowhere near.
And that's what I thought. I was feeling the nowhere near, but...
And that's basically your angle minus 15 feet and some plexiglass.
And my glasses. And my no glasses.
So the calling was a touch from Iowa State after the swing from Eggleston to make it.
Oh, no. I mean, look at that angle. That wasn't even close from that angle.
So based on what we have seen, we're thinking that this is a challenge Iowa State will win.
I mean, we'll see.
I'd say yes.
I would think so. I would think so, but those other two angles looked a lot closer. I mean, this is the trouble they have, the down refs have, right? You're all seeing the same thing, and it can look a lot different from different angles.
Really the most important thing, getting the call right. And that's what the discussion is here. Initial ruling went the favor of Texas, and the challenge will be successful for Iowa State, but more importantly for us, for you.
More importantly for me, that's right.
Yeah, from that angle, it looked, maybe a good inch or two.
Yeah.
So subtract 1 from Texas, plus 1 for Iowa State. Longhorns still leading by 3, but just 1 challenge remain for the Cyclones if we don't go to a 5th set where they would receive another. Texas has not played a match that has gone to the 5th set this season across the 5 thus far.
And this is the finish that Coach Elliott is talking about with her hands. Look at O'Neal as she presses and finishes her hands down into the court. He said he talked a lot about international men's volleyball, and that's what they do. And that's what they're really working on in practice, working on terminating the block instead of just touching the block.
Such a weapon to have for a team, just another way to generate points with that big athletic block Texas seems to have year in and year out. They always protect those fingers too.
They do.
Look, all the Texas players, they're always wrapped up solid.
They've done that for as long as I can remember.
He got a lot of heat coming on some of those balls, just like you see right there. Wow.
Man, I haven't seen Rhodes get on a ball like this. That was fast, and you'll see O'Neal, her arms are down as she gathers to block the ball. So our hands right there are down, and then they come up. You want your hands high on a perfect pass so you can just jump and press.
Beautiful execution. Avery Rhodes, redshirt junior from Waco, Texas. Repped at Midway High School, so maybe some family and friends allowed in the building. That part of the attendance allotment. 1,500, but by our count, we're thinking maybe that's inclusive of everybody, but there are fans in the building, season ticket holders for Texas, but then also friends and family of the players on the court.
And again, it's so deceptive because the place is so big.
Seats 18,000 does the Irwin Center at capacity. You ever been in here at capacity?
I have not.
It's packed out. This is a temporary home for Texas. It did host NCAA volleyball back in the day, 1994, the NCAA semifinal and final match. Texas has not played here since 1997, season in which they played 3 matches, but looking pretty comfortable thus far in the expansive environment. Three aces now for Texas to equal the 3 from Iowa State. Peterson underneath that one. And there you go. We talked about the great play on the back end for Texas. Dug up by Peterson. And ends with the field's kill.
This is Peterson making these amazing plays out of the right back, putting that ball right on the money to allow her to score.
Volleyball's not like softball or baseball. You always talk about those gritty players, always with the most dirt on their jerseys. You obviously don't get that, but look no further than Libro and these DSs that are flying around the floor. reckless abandonment sometimes. They'll just go through anything.
Absolutely. That's what you want out of a defensive player.
Look at it right there. One fist to keep it up. Fields just a little too much juice on it.
Just kind of ran out of room there, ran out of real estate. The ball was high in the middle of the court. She hit that same angle she would normally hit and just hit it wide.
Anderson serving. Back row attack for Eggleston. That one good.
And I'll say it again, Peterson with another dig and a fast transition out of the back row. Look at how quick that is. She gets on there so fast.
Tell us about timing for that back row attack.
Well, it's just like a fast set to the outside or with the middle. So that the outside that's in the back row, making that approach, has to trust that the setter is going to be able to put it. She starts her approach before she touches the ball and trusts that the ball is going to be there. They rep it and rep it and rep it.
Once you're in the air, you can't adjust very much.
Nope, there's no adjusting. You'll see that sometimes, occasionally, with teams that run a really fast back row attack. They'll just miss. You know, it's just gone. Ball's gone.
Another part of that arsenal for Logan Eggleston and what they can do, moving her around now in 6 rotations, showing obviously 2-time Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week thus far that she's very capable of what they have put on her plate and asked of this captain. Now an upperclassman as a junior. Free ball coming for Iowa State. Candelaria Herrera.
And she makes moves so quickly off the net. You'll see it's not even a full approach. She gets off, just kind of throws her feet back, jumps, and is ready to swing at that ball. I mean, that's a high level of experience, just being able to get off the net quickly and back up to transition off of fast digs.
So I thought about this last night when you talk about these international players. We always talk about, for these collegiate players, American players, adjusting to the international game. What about for an international player that's coming in and adjusting to the NCAA game? What are the adjustments there?
Well, you know, I would say the biggest adjustment is going to school, having this whole routine and schedule of school and volleyball. You know, it's so unique here in the United States where we have college where you can get your education and you're playing volleyball. So finding that balance between studying, being in school, going to the training room, the weight room, and playing, I think it's just a different schedule. You know, it's totally different than what she may have experienced. But you know, for her, the speed of the game isn't an issue. That's the biggest jump from college to international, is the speed of the game. And I think that's why you see her with so much success here, is because she's so fast and because she's used to that speed. And she's able to bring that experience to Iowa State.
Herrera playing with the Argentinian national team for a trio of summer tournaments back in 2019. The FIVB Volleyball Nations qualifying tournament, the Tokyo Olympic tournament. I mentioned the Pan American Games, and played in the CSV Tokyo qualifying tournament where Argentina clinched a spot. So a very exciting opportunity on the horizon for this senior. There's a lot of travel. She had been back home in Argentina, was able to get back in the spring to join her team throughout quarantine. But these players now, another unique wrinkle as a senior, has the opportunity, could play through this year, play into the Olympics, and then come back and play again next fall.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting situation right now for all programs. What are programs going to do? What are the players going to do? How many scholarships do they have? How are they going to honor that? And it's a really interesting and unique experience right now for everybody.
Eggleston from the back row was dug, but the joust won by her front line.
Just looked like Herrera kind of lost sight of the ball. Kind of a weird joust at the net.
Be interesting, Texas-wise, you talk about that interesting wrinkle. Expecting a couple pieces as well that could join them. come spring. So how that will look, I think we'll get to that come January.
Yes, we will.
Right now it's 16 Big 12 matches to determine a Big 12 champ. Texas has dominated Big 12, selected preseason for the 13th time in program history to win the conference. From 2011 to 19, 136-8 in Big 12 play. Just 8 losses from 2011 to 2019. That includes 2 perfect conference seasons in 2013 and 2017. They were almost perfect last year. 15-1, dropped the 1 match in Waco against Baylor after sweeping straight sets. Baylor, that was a big match last year. 1 versus 2, if I remember correctly.
That was a big match and a fun one.
Longhorns will have the Bears later on in this conference slate, but plenty of work to do here. Iowa State, just like we saw in the first set, they cut it to 1.
So this is where they had Skylar Fields over there on the right and Phillips now staying on the left. This is rotation 1 again that we talked about earlier where they're having some difficulties.
Gabriel to the floor to set up Phillips, who is dug. Ryan will go for Phillips. And off the attempt on the dig from Anderson.
So Iowa State coming back into the 6-2. Getting a bigger block here, but Phillips able to get on that ball pretty fast inside the block and score.
So Molly Phillips, 5 kills, 10 swings, even 500 hitting percentage. Texas with the block. Eggleston out there one-on-one, sends it back.
And again, it's the block. That's not just up and present, but pressing over the net and back. You see her pike her body back into the court.
Good response. Herrera on the slide. Middle blocker.
I tell you, man, her arm is just so fast. She gets on it and they set the ball fast, but she pulls the trigger so quickly. It's hard to set your block and get it over in time.
Anderson, Holthouse, and Herrera all with 6 kills apiece. A nice piece of serving from Annie Hatch. This is where the Cyclones have been able to get it to 1. Back for Phillips, so Phillips continuing her great week here at home. It's a crucial side out and sets up set point for Texas O'Brien to serve.
See Coach Johnson Lynch telling the setter, hey, look, let's run this if we've got a pass.
Wanting to run into the middle and just missed by Mance. So much as we saw in set number 1, Cyclones get so close, but Texas just a couple crucial points to close it out and making on November 3rd. So action, what they want to do to continue this conversation for what is right, for change regarding social justice. Tyler Denning, Salima Rockwell here at the Frank Irwin Center.
Iowa State starting up, trying to run some double quicks right now.
After the Cyclones saw both sets drop 25-22, they were close within 1 point. Great rallies to get it close at the end, but just a couple of points going the way of Texas. We had talked about it in our break that was exactly what Iowa State wanted to run. Going into that final point, they just didn't quite get the execution.
No, they had the opportunity, mixing some things up, and that's a tough one to watch as a coach. You know, you see that, you know that's what they wanted to run, and she just missed that ball.
Digs that one high and gives Gabriel plenty of time to get under and find Eggleston. That's been the difference. When Texas needed something late, they've gotten it from Eggleston, from Fields. Saw Phillips in the first set as well.
Well, and they've been good out of system. That's the key. And out of system means when they pass that ball just a little bit off the net and it's not perfect and they have to set the outside, they've been very good in those situations as well.
Yossi and O'Brien colliding there, both back up.
Point Iowa State.
12 consecutive sets Texas has won. Iowa State needing to grab one to send it to a fourth. Texas could make it back-to-back weeks with straight set victories. But Phillips, from what we saw last week against Kansas to what we're seeing this week, very impressive.
Very impressive. I mean, from the last match against Kansas, this is night and day. I mean, she looks more comfortable, she looks fresh, her arm is good, her vision is good, and that connection is what I'm noticing is the biggest difference.
Connection working in the middle, the impact player for Iowa State, Candelaria Herrera.
And Piper Mock knowing exactly where Herrera is as she runs along the net and just lays this ball back behind her for this back one as she's moving. And that's trust between a setter and a middle.
To your point about Phillips, and one thing we've heard from all the coaches that we've talked to thus far is these adjustments and quick turnaround time, and also within the schedule of the week playing Thursday, Friday. Well, if you're traveling, okay, so Iowa State will get home very late tonight. You're trying to recover what that turnaround is. If you have to play again on Thursday, not a lot of time to get in the gym and work on things.
It's not, because you want that rest day. You need that rest day. And of course, they need to recover and then be ramped up again to play. So it's a tough balance, and it's just different. It's different for everybody.
Yet another one to build on her good 2 days. Molly Phillips, second on the team with 8 kills.
That's the big swing to the deep part of the court. And Iowa State chases it down and almost comes up with it. But
number 2, Taylor Baranski, who I'd like to say happy birthday to, celebrating her 21st. Saw her walking onto the court earlier, wished her a happy birthday. She said, can't wait to get home at midnight. Celebrate it?
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere and doing anything.
Probably not. Still great energy on the Cyclone side of the net. Kinsey Mance on the swing from the right.
I like this sub that they're doing. They're bringing in Mance for Brandt, subbing in Mock for Holthouse, and kind of getting a bigger block, a little more offense in those rotations where they're losing some offense. Those 2-hitter rotations.
So is Iowa State now in a 6-2?
They're in kind of a modified 6-2, yeah.
Because now you see number 3, the setter, set that ball for the Cyclones. In space of Piper Mock. A lot of energy on the Cyclone side of the net. Not think that this was the team that was down 2-0.
Well, you know, and sometimes you get to that point, you feel it, you can taste it, you know you're right there, and you have an opportunity, and you're like, let's go, we have nothing to lose right now.
They were right there in both sets, I believe 23-22 in both the first and the second, but Texas prevailing. This is where Texas has been great. Their last handful of matches is something that Coach Elliott had asked and challenged his team of heading into that Kansas series. Can you put teams away in the third set? You do more of this, you're going to get that result.
And this is it. The offense just kind of keeps coming back at you. A huge dig by Anna on Eggleston, but then they have somebody else. Then they can go behind with O'Neal, and that's what makes Texas so difficult to beat and defend. They have so many weapons that they can set at any time.
Going to field. Back one more time. Ripped off the block.
I think there was a net call.
On number 5, Brooke Anderson. So much of the same story. Iowa State gets close. Texas has a response. Eggleston just long once again. Make it 8 serving errors. And if I'm correct, I think 3 from Eggleston. At least 2.
That sounds right.
You live with that when you get that.
Yeah, then there's that.
Service game obviously very important. It is something Texas continues to shore up, but you get that type of offense. Wow.
It's so fast, it's so hard, and impossible to dig.
One of the things that I've at least seen from Eggleston is the variety that she's doing it this season. You see her, it feels like in almost every single spot of the court, making an impact.
Well, you're absolutely right. She can block, she's passing well now, and hitting from everywhere, every area of the court.
Mentioned it last night, but Coach Elliott saying moments in those 2 matches against Kansas, Eggleston looked like a player of the year type. That was the level that she was reaching, and said that that's just really fun to watch as a coach. It's fun to watch. From our perspective, once again, Iowa State.
Herrera again.
Plenty of fight.
Forcing that 31 into her, getting her going. She's just jumping. She's ready no matter where the ball's passed.
Haven't been able, the Cyclone Jets, just find that push to get a lead. Later in sets, all of their leads have come early than the first handful of points.
Point Texas.
So a service error and then an attack error out of the middle. Gives the ball back to Texas. Texas, their side out percentage, not where coaching staff would like, 58.5. You said 65, really like the baseline. You want to see north of that?
No, 65 is really good. With 65, you're going to win a lot of matches. I mean, but that's where you want to be. I mean, that's where the top teams want to be consistently as best they can. So 58, not bad, but they definitely want to be a little bit higher in side out percentage.
Iowa State will call a timeout. Texas with a 4-point advantage in the third, already up 2-0 here in Austin.
Each other through the cubicles. So it's good.
Got a great vantage point here. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you to everybody who's helped make this happen, all the hard work going into bringing these matches safe and healthy. To you guys at home, who we hope are safe and healthy as well. Texas has kept Iowa State at bay. Talked for Iowa State, what's unique, Chrissy Johnson-Lynch saying she usually likes to build her team throughout the course of the season. We talked about it last night, that the pre-conference and then moving into conference, able to experiment with all those moving parts, but that's not something that they have the luxury of doing this year as you're straight into conference play, something already immediately at stake. Very challenging for coaches and having to tailor their approach differently from what they've done.
It really is. And it's nice that they're having this opportunity and it's working in this system to run the 6-2. So now they're getting other players in, running a little bit different system now. And probably as they get more comfortable as a unit, they can do that. They can plug in pieces and say, okay, where can we maximize things?
See Mock back at the setting position, number 11 in white.
And Nance, I just love her energy. She gets up there, cracks the ball.
She's been pumped up.
She's fired up to play.
Serve right at Yosia. Quick into the middle. Dime for Texas.
That's it. If they can get Butler going again, we haven't seen a lot of her. It's been pretty quiet here for a little bit, so want to get her going as much as possible and get O'Neal going.
Gone the way of Breon Butler 12 times to the tune of 7 kills, hitting an even 500. Asia O'Neal, 9 swings, 3 kills. Texas led by Eggleston with 14. She's been big on the block, but sending that one just out of bounds. Texas out blocking Iowa State 7-2.
And again, her on that ball so fast. Hitting that ball between the block and the net.
Herrera to serve. Joust one by Eggleston.
Texas.
It's a nice play by Eggleston, just kind of waiting and being patient. We always say whoever goes second, you're going to win that joust. Patient with that ball as it comes over and just press.
Patience and press. That's what you're looking for on the joust.
That's it.
That's easy to remember.
Yeah, not easy to do, but easy to remember.
Eggleston made it look easy.
She makes everything look easy.
There's Asia O'Neal. You talked about Texas finding her a little bit more, the middles as well. They get her on the slide.
That's the rhythm they're looking for. You see Gabriel like, yes, we've got it. I'm feeling it. On this beautiful dig by Yosia. And they can just run their offense fast to the pin with 1 block.
Texas leading by 4. Halfway through the 3rd set, Peterson diving to try to save that one, but side out for the Cyclones.
It's a nice tip over the top, you know, and it's interesting. Defensively, Peterson's going to be back just a little bit further with Gabriel up there blocking. Maybe the outside can hit over top down the line, so she might be a little bit deeper. So that tip over the top is a smart play by Iowa State.
See that setter substitution once again for Iowa State as that dig just over your head. So Brandt back in, the setting position is targeted there with the swing.
And remember, these substitutions they're doing keeps them in a 3-hitter, always a 3-hitter offense. And that's what they want. They want more offense, and they want a bigger block.
And that's when you talk about players like Logan Eggleston that can move into a 6 rotation tight mold. You have the ability to run with 1 setter. But the difference when you go to a 6-2 is that you have the 3, but you have to go to a 2nd setter.
Yes.
Clean that up for me.
That's going to take a minute.
Into the middle. So substitution, Hatch will come in. Brooke Anderson will serve. Goes at Eggleston. Tries to send that over. Texas look for Fields. Cyclones will have a swing from the right. Texas block is there. Fields again trickles it down through the block.
It's a lot of opportunities, right? Over and over again. Iowa State doing a nice job with touches on the block, playing defense. But as soon as they have to send a free ball or something easy over the net, that's when Texas is going to have the ability to score.
We talk setter substitutions. Texas now, Ashley Shook into the match, but not for Texas running a modified 6-2. They're just going setter for setter. The senior shook some work. She goes to Fields. Cyclones from the left, Annie Hatch.
And Hatch, man, I tell you what, she's got such an arm and vision where she can see just inside the block and beat the block to the inside of the court.
Quick work for Shook, sits down, Gabriel back in. We saw that yesterday. Just a quick conversation with the Texas setter. The Longhorns making a 5-point advantage, and they are 5 points away from making it 6 wins to start the season. Perfect.
Texas.
Herrera wants that so bad. I mean, she's there. She's fully locked out and just not pressed into the middle of the court. You can see that in her face.
And that's something, Salima, I think will be interesting too within this format of this season. Usually when we're picking up conference play in the traditional season, you see a little more formed package for these teams that have played through preseason. But it'll be interesting when they have that break and then going into whatever it looks like come January. Are they going to play more regional? Is there potential that conference opponents could be playing each other but not counting towards a conference record? But what a team like Iowa State will look like on that flip side.
Well, it'll be really interesting because they have the players, they have enough players, and everyone's working through either maybe injuries right now or someone's out or they're working through their lineup and trying to find their way. And that'll be a good time, that time period right before the season starts again to know what you have, know what you're dealing with, and maybe it'll be a different look. It could be a little bit different look.
Texas defensively been very good. They've always been good at the net, but bringing balls up, good as well to transition into their offense.
And you know, the defense starts at the net, right? Starts with their block, and then it goes to the back row. But it's the block that always leads everything, leads the defense. And then you got the back row players flying after balls, making plays. Gabriel doing the same thing, but it's not just the defensive players. It's Eggleston who's staying in the back row as well.
And what that goes to, transition defense to offense. We saw Texas at the net. They are always one of the best in the country, but this year 2.96, that leads the conference. It's second in the NCAA, blocks per set. You see they're just below their season average, but the numbers have been good, very good for Texas. Shows in the results, but also when you read between the lines. Do the Cyclones have one more push? Cut it to 1 point in both the first and second sets late. Texas able to close out. Into the middle, Butler. Just long and out of bounds. For Texas, what's coming up? They'll be at Kansas State next week, then come home. We'll be here against Texas Tech, then on the road against TCU. Then they welcome in Baylor. And everybody will have circled, but long road with this back-to-back unique format. Round things out at West Virginia. So traditionally in a regular season, you play every conference opponent twice. You do a home and home, but obviously this year wanting to minimize the travel. So if you go there, you play 2 at their place. If they come to you, you play 2 at your place. Gives you 16 total matches in this conference-only season.
Well, you know, and I think what's really interesting, I was thinking about this, the prep and just getting ready for a match. Normally, you have a lot of information, right, by the second time you play your opponent. They're doing things over and over again. You have all the stats, you have all the information, and so it's just a totally different way of preparing for the first match, of course, but then, you know, usually it's a month, 5, 6 weeks later.
Yeah, that second go-round.
You've got all these matches and information where you can be a little bit more strategic with what you're doing scouting-wise. Usually
you talk this time of year, you're thinking, okay, maybe 10 to 15 matches at least into your season, and that's a lot of tape, that's a lot of tendencies. But here, okay, you had 4 matches to look at coming in, but obviously a lot of history with all these teams being conference foes. Texas, #1 in the Big 12, 5-0. Baylor, #2 in the country, but #2 in the Big 12. Saw Baylor last night against Oklahoma. Kind of opened some eyes. Texas has already played Oklahoma and Kansas and showed you the remainder of their schedule. Some good teams they will face off in the coming weeks, including Kansas State going on the road next week.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it flushes out kind of in the middle of the conference based on this new schedule and based on how everyone prepares and is ready.
So coming out of the timeout, Iowa State, they've had their push. Can Texas close it out? More energy coming from #1, Kenzie Mance. She may stomp a hole in the floor on one of these.
She might.
She's pumped up.
And now Texas moving, they're passing again in rotation 1. See if they can get a different look.
Shifted it just a little. Server thought about it, and the service air after a 4-0 run for Iowa State. Gives the ball back to Texas and one of their better servers in Nalani Yosia. Texas 3 points away from making it a 3-0 sweep. Kenzie Mance sent back by the Texas block. 9 now on the match.
Butler finally finding that, getting her hands over the net and not being off the net like she was on the last 2 blocks. And sometimes you don't have to jump that high. You can just shuffle over and get your hands pressed over the net. That's the key, is getting your hands pressed over the net.
Phillips there as the ball tapped over the block out to Eggleston, who will get kill number 15. She's led the Longhorns in kills every single match. Maybe on pace for another Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. Match point for Texas. So quick side out. On that point, it's Herrera in the middle. Still match point for Texas. Gabriel will go for Butler.
And she knows, Butler knows that's her bad. She hit that ball out of bounds. She's got to get on top of it.
Try Eggleston, and that'll end it. We had talked about it between the second and third set. That really was part of the difference. Texas, at those pivotal moments, you have somebody like Eggleston who could be a player of the year at some point, able to shut it down.
And it's so nice to have a go-to when you know you have someone, when you need a swing, when you need a side out, when you need a point that you can count on. And that's what they found, and that's what they have in Eggleston.
So Texas moves to 6-0 on the season, their second set of matches here at home on the season, and their second 3-set sweep, this time of Iowa State.